Bonjour tout le monde, je suis en direct de New York, Grand Central. C'est tellement beau. Ok, ça c'est le téléphérique de New York. Regarde, tu peux voir la vue.
Like it was very balanced. Like I had ample time. That's why like so yeah, I take part of right, because you know you can be doing They always say like you have like a really long semester for like all 4 years. Just like what's it called? Like how that yeah. My roommate and I were just talking yesterday because she's about to be a third year, like she's studying clinic and stuff, and like she's like, I just saw a couple of third year mates and was this. It's smooth sailing. The trail. It's kind of a Christmas movie. Right? But it's usually blue shirty. Wait, it's really nice.
Yeah?
It's like
Yeah, it is.
I'm crossing the yeah. I honestly I heard about it just last year too. And it's literally like it's the same year as the yeah, it's crazy. It's like, yeah, that's what I thought. Like after second year, like just like the reval, like they hit you with like the hardest. Like everyone talks about fourth semester being the hardest thing. Then it's like smooth sailing. It's fine. But no, like third year, it's because like you're in clinic, you don't have to study, and you're still taking hard classes. Like it's like not because you're not smart enough, like you're really just good. You didn't have to really
coming up next on the right, the old post office. Dates back to 1899, grandfathered through from the law of 1910. Recent history of that building, 2013, Donald Trump took out a 60-year lease on it. Renovations, opened up the Trump International Hotel in 2016, but last year, the remaining years of lease were sold. That's now a Waldorf Astoria hotel. So the next time you come back in this area of our nation's capital, go by there. You have to see if it remains a Waldorf Astoria. Now, as we're looking at the Capitol, many of the swearing in for the president happens at the Capitol these days. Now, after the president is sworn in, the president goes inside the Capitol, takes care of some business, signs some documents, makes it all official and whatnot. Also has a little brunch to prepare for that long day ahead. About 1 o'clock, that's when the inaugural parade will depart the Capitol. But it leaves over on the other side, then eventually makes its way over on this side, right here on Pennsylvania Avenue. Now, as you notice, all the structures, obstacles, light signals that are in the middle of the avenue, they're all removable on that day of the historic parade, as it is totally unobstructed from one curve to the other for that inaugural parade to venture down. Now, across the next street, on the left, we're going to pass by the J. Edgar Hoover building. And that makes a home for the FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation. J. Edgar Hoover, director of the FBI for 48 years. That was all the way till his death in 1972. But before his death, he was able to watch as that building would rise up out of the ground. He famously said, "That's the ugliest building I've ever seen." So they showed him a little respect. They waited 2 days after he died, then named that building in his honor. That's right, a whole 2 days worth of respect. The new Hoover building opened in 1975, but before that, FBI in the building to our right. That's the headquarters for the Department of Justice. FBI started out of the Department of Justice, early 1900s. These days, the building to our right, named in honor of Robert F. Kennedy. Robert Kennedy, brother of our 35th President, John F. Kennedy. Robert, twice elected senator for New York. He also served as Attorney General for a portion of his brother John's presidential administration. Across the next street to the right, that's the National Archives. That's where you find the temporary stage will be constructed over that area. That's exactly where the swearing in of the president has been held every 4 years since that swearing in of the president. They're named that way because they resemble the stench of rotting flesh. But it's only when they're in bloom they have that interesting smell. They bloom quite rarely, and it may take years between the times they bloom. They're only in bloom for 48 hours or less each time. Now we got a little daylight left, so we can see one of our newest memorials just through the intersection off to the right behind the trees and shrubs. That's the National Native American Veterans Memorial, where we honor all American Indian, Native Alaskan, and Hawaiian, all serving in all of our armed forces back to the Revolutionary War. Memorial dedicated November 11th, Veterans Day, just last year, 2002. The museum on the right is the National Museum of the American Indian. The museum opened in 2004. They have some of the most expansive collections. They come from all of the Americas, North, South, and Central America. As we enter onto Independence Avenue, the building on our left has a special name. That's the Voice of America building. Voice of America studios are inside. They broadcast news and other information in about 50 languages all around the world. That's to nearly 100 million listeners each and every week. Another pretty new memorial just through the intersection off to the left honors 34th President Dwight D. Eisenhower. He was Supreme Commander of Allied Forces in Western Europe during World War II. Now the raised area in the back of the memorial is called Tapestry. If you look closely, you might see some images on that tapestry. But if you come by when it's fully dark out, it's all illuminated. Gives it a spectacular view at night, as they're meant to depict beach landings that were part of the D-Day invasion. And as I say, it only comes out at night. Back to the right, the world-famous National Air and Space Museum. They have the world's largest collections of historic aircraft and spacecraft. That includes the Wright Brothers Flyer, Spear of St. Louis, Apollo 11 command module. Now, even though they're doing a little work on the outside, they're working inside as well. They're still open, but they do require a timed entry ticket these days. Check their website to see that ticket availability these days. Our two white flat-faced buildings coming up off to the left are parts of the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, headquartered there. They're also known as the Wright Buildings, a way we honor the Wright brothers, the pioneers that brought us into the age of aviation. Wilbur Building directly beside us, Orville, honored across the street to the left. First Flight's Kitty Hawk, North Carolina vicinity, on Big Kill Devil Hill. They had to figure out who was going to pilot the flyer first that day. They flipped a coin. Orville, he won the coin toss. He was in the air for about 12 seconds. Although most called it a crash landing. But nonetheless, that would be the first time in human history 3 qualities achieved in a flight. Heavier than air object, control, and power. The Wright brothers truly changed the world that day in North Carolina. Now over here next on the right, the circular structure is the Hirshhorn Museum, where we feature modern and contemporary artwork. Now the second oldest of all the Smithsonian's, the next gorgeous red building up to the right, dates back to 1881. That's the Arts and Industries building. And then coming up, next building on the left is the headquarters for the Department of Energy. For some reason, they leave lights on every single night. Next on the right, you're going to see a 6-domed top structure. National Museum of African Art. They have collections from nearly every country in Africa. And there are 2 levels to that museum that's underground. As we keep moving up to the intersection, keep looking right. That's known as the Castle. Smithsonian Institution's very first museum. The institution is the world's largest museum research and education complex. It is made up of 19 world-class museums, 9 research centers, and our national center. There are 17 Smithsonians located in or around Washington, D.C. The other 2 are in New York City. There are exactly 11 Smithsonian Institution museums located on the grounds of the National Mall. However, our building right and even over to the left, not part of that institution. They are part of the Department of Agriculture. It was established in 1862 by President Abraham Lincoln. Early years was known as the People's Department. At that time in America, about half the population lived on farms. These days, about 2% of Americans live on farms. Now the next historic red brick building in front of us, slightly left, that one dates back to 1880. When it opened, only you can prevent forest fires, but in recent years it has been modified. Now they'll tell us only you can prevent wildfires. Now once we turn right, we're going to have another cross-sectional view of our National Mall space. At that point, they ran out of money on that project. That would be the only time in Washington, D.C. they would ever run out of money on a project. Right. After that, a bit of lack of interest. Eventually, about 22 years passed by with no construction. It became an eyesore. A visiting Mark Twain called it the chimney. He thought it looked like one of those old industrial chimneys of the day. After that, they resolved to finish up. They went back to that first quarry to try to get more marble, but there was no more marble left there. They used it up in other construction projects over the years. So they had to go to other quarries to get the marble to finish the Washington Monument. And as you can see, the marble has weathered to a slightly different color. And again, it's a little more brown mixed in the higher levels of the Washington Monument. It's a little brighter at the lower level. Now you see that 1-story stone building close to us on the grounds of the Washington Monument. That's called the Washington Monument Lodge. Starting at 8:45 every morning. they'll release what are called first come, first serve, same day Washington Monument tours. Now those tickets are very limited in their numbers, so they go pretty quickly. It's advised by the National Park Service that you arrive there well ahead of 8:45. Now a person in line can acquire up to 6 tickets. So perhaps you have to plan tonight who you're going to send over early tomorrow to get the tickets for your group for the Washington Monument, as it does provide a pretty unique view on a clear day, which I guess tomorrow's not really going to be much of, but you can see off to the left, which is to the west, about 60 miles to the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains in Virginia. So again, here on the National Mall grounds, hundreds of thousands of people, if not more, will assemble. And for the most part, those crowds on the day of the swearing in of the ceremony will come back here to near the Washington Monument. Now the graveled pathways on either side of the grassy section of the mall, they'll have some video boards set up so that you can get some close-up views.
Regarde, ils vendent les fruits dehors, comme ça. Comme au Pérou, non? Des grillades. Oh, barbecue. Regarde toutes les fruits.
We invite you to enter One World Observatory through the doors on your right, where a spectacular 360-degree view of the city awaits directly below you.
Liberty enlightening the world is the full name of this, world's most famous statue, which was given from the people of France to the United States in 1886.
There's a better picture of your
The statues were tossed and guns paid out by Frederick Bartholdi.
Ah mais tu vois, on voit les écrans de Times Square.
Museum. It opened here in 1986. Don't miss it, go visit. At a speech in Gettysburg, where he was not even the keynote speaker, and was told to make it less than 5 minutes long, Lincoln once called the cost of liberty that last full measure of devotion. There's a star-shaped fort at the very bottom of this monument. Cast of wood, stone, star-shaped, built solid with concrete, has 11 points. Castlewood honors Colonel Eleazar Daniel Wood, who gave his life for this country in the War of 1812. Will you honor those who secured your liberty? Civil War ended. Both sides canceled contracts. Popular game is what if? What if Lincoln lived? Because the timing of his death, he didn't live to see an unemployment rate reuniting the states soar over 20%. He might not have been so beloved in history. The pedestal is neoclassic Egyptian combined with Aztec elements to cut the cost. A nice try by architect Richard Morrison, but she would still sit in crates almost 2 years. Have you seen the light? In her right hand is a torch. The National Honor Society symbol's a torch. It's a symbol of wisdom or enlightenment. If you're smart enough to bring a torch, you don't stumble in the dark. The flame is copper, 2 pennies thick, but covered in 24-karat gold leaf, thinner than a sheet of newspaper, reflecting sunlight or spotlight. The proper title of this sculpture is Liberty Enlightening the World, which has 7 continents or seas, the crown's halo, 7 points of light. We want to enlighten the world about democracy. Is she dressed in Athenian Grecian robes? Athens, democracy's birthplace? One story is that, like the Colossus of Rhodes, Bartoli wanted to sail between her legs, 1 foot on Staten Island, the other foot on Brooklyn. If that story was true, he was looking at a map, no idea the scale of distance. Immigrants tend to be regarded as exported trash or refuse by people in this country who themselves are immigrants, or the children of. Kind of everyone wants to close the door.